Okay, hi guys, welcome back to another short lecture on the biopsy interpretation series. So today last time we did some lesions of the colon, where we did some general concepts about the malignant lesions, the minimally invasive or the intramucosal lesions, as well as the invasive lesions. Today, shifting a bit from the malignancy, before I introduce this topic, the purpose of these lectures is not to teach you the whole topic. You have a lot of good lectures available already online, and you are reading your books for that. So if anyone wants any opinion on what kind of books to read or what to focus on, the WHO guidelines, the Sternberg or the Ackerman has the full details about it. My purpose is to just introduce you to the pitfalls, the problems that you face when you look at the slide, which you should remember even when you are giving your practicals or making a diagnosis. My purpose is not to teach you the theory of it, because a lot of people have told me to make shorter videos. So these are the shorter videos. In short, the previous ones when I had started this channel were 1 hour long. They were full theory coverage, but now I don't do that. I just stick to the pitfalls, the problems that you will face, the questions. These are the questions that will be asked to you when you are giving your practical exams. So I am just focusing on that. So now today let's come to inflammatory bowel disease. Now inflammatory bowel disease versus irritable bowel syndrome are two different things. So I will be later on dealing with the histopathology of both. Irritable bowel syndrome is very common, occurring in 90% of the Indian population or all over the world. Maybe I have not read the proportion data as such, and it is nothing. It is when you eat something, you get a bit of acidity, you take or you gastritis, I mean you get a feel dyspepsia. It is induced by stress. It is a non-specific inflammatory condition. Biopsy might have normal histology, so that is something separate. It is related to anxiety, to stress, etc. And of course, they say that type A personalities who are more anxious or who, the overachiever types, they suffer from IBS. Irritable bowel syndrome or inflammatory bowel disease is a separate entity. It is a proper disease that a person is suffering from. It has genetic or predisposition, heritable predisposition, and it has specific changes on histopathology. The symptoms are more severe. So please don't confuse IBD with IBS, inflammatory irritable. Irritable word in itself is self-explanatory, that your bowel gets irritated easily. So you start getting dyspepsia and then you take an antacid and you feel very good. But inflammatory bowel disease is not associated with stress or anxiety only. It is a proper disorder. It is a proper disease. Okay, so that is the first point that you need to understand. So the objective of this talk is to, or this short lecture is, A, you recognize the histological features which are important on the slide. You identify where you will get confused, what mimics each other, and then of course you improve your reporting and your exam outcomes. So the IBD spectrum has the three most important things that you will be asked, given, or you will encounter depending on which stage of your teaching you are, is ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, and indeterminate colitis. Ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, of course, everyone has studied in MBBS, etc. Indeterminate is somewhere in between, where the features on microscopy are not lying in either spectrum. Okay, so indeterminate colitis, it is also known as IBD-US, inflammatory bowel disease of non-specific or unidentified significance. All these terms you will get used to when you see a lot of IBD biopsies. Since I work in a pediatric setup, I get to see a lot of IBD biopsies. So that is one reason why then you will come to know that there are scorings which are existing, which you did not know as an MD pathology PG. But then of course when you do your, since I did my SRship in pediatric pathology, now I'm working in a PEDPATH institute. So then you come to know, of course, there are Nancy scoring, Jobber scoring. There are various scorings available to diagnose an IBD and then score at what grade this IBD is. And the biggest thing is, we always used to think there's a Marsh Oberhuer scoring for celiac. No, there are multiple scoring systems available for IBD itself. So we need to be aware of all these spectrums, or all these, not spectrum exactly, but systems of diagnosing such disease entities. All right. So this is a normal histology. What is most important for you to understand is that this test tube rack pattern, since we are talking about colon, IBDs affect the lower GI more, or mostly. Okay, they are very rarely seen in the upper GI. So this test tube rack pattern is the normal histology of a biopsy taken from a colorectal region. Then the spacing is almost uniform. Here there is some inflammation, but almost uniform when you have a normal or mild inflamed epithelium. And this is where you see the basal plasmacytosis, which I will explain further. Very, very important finding to diagnose an IBD versus a non-IBD biopsy. So see, when I will see an IBD, I label it as UC or Crohn's, or I just leave it at IBD US, whatever. There are three histological things that I will be looking at. Any features of chronicity, any features of activity, and then what is the distribution of inflammatory cells. My report will be made on these three findings. So, you know, the word chronicity stands for a prolonged IBD. एक ऐसा बंदा जिसको IBD हो रहा है, अटैक्स आते हैं, फिर ठीक हो जाता है, वो दवाई हो सकता है खा रहा हो ना खा रहा हो, but the attacks come and go, and then and since every time an attack comes, the mucosa gets inflamed, the mucosa shows features of inflammation and ulceration, and then when the attack goes away, the mucosa starts healing, and this has happened a lot of times. So what happens is there is distortion of something called the crypt architecture. See, normally crypts were supposed to be like this, but now they are branching, they are vague. There is loss of crypts. This entire area is devoid of crypts. This is dying crypt. And then the distribution between the two crypts is not uniform. The distance here is shorter. The distance here is longer. These are features of chronicity. And this has happened because of prolonged injury. Okay. So crypt distortion was, as I showed you, this is a feature of chronicity where you get a lot of branching, shortening, as showed you in the previous, and irregular spacing. This image, if you see, so this is a crypt over here, and then you see something in the lumen of the crypt. This is lamina, this is hemorrhage, and then you see something over here. And you are not over here, you are not able to make out the lining epithelium of this crypt, which you are able to make out over here. This is cryptitis, this is cryptapsis. Apart from these findings which I showed you in the previous slide, if you get this is feature of activity. So feature of activity means there's neutrophilic inflammation and infiltration, cryptitis and cryptapsis. Feature of chronicity is branching of the crypt, shortening, irregular spacing between two crypts. And if you're getting both together, then it is most likely an active on chronic. So there's features of activity over on a chronic background, and means this is a relapsed IBD or a recurring ulcerative colitis, and right now the patient is having an active attack, but the background shows that he's had it before also. Okay, got it? And you might also get only feature of activity in a very early case or a very fresh case of IBD, or you might only get features of chronicity in the biopsy that you've received, because the area of activity has been missed on the when the endoscopist was taking the biopsy. Okay, so even if I get features of chronicity, I will mention that there are features of chronicity in the biopsy, hence possibility of IBD or long-standing IBD should be considered. If there's a frank features of activity, whether on a normal background or on a background of all these things happening in the crypt, then it is clear cut that this case is an IBD with recurring attacks. Okay. Another important sign I had shown you was, this is important clue, is the basal plasmacytosis. So at the, see, this is the muscularis mucosae, not propria mucosae. This is the crypt base, the lowermost crypts, the long thing going down, and this is the lowermost, and then you see sheets of plasma cells. All these are plasma cells. So if you see this is very characteristic of an inflammatory bowel disease, okay, over any other inflammatory lesion. So what is, as previously also showed, activity, another example, active inflammation. So you see such a busy lamina propria, then you see these scripts over here, maybe these dark spots, I don't know how much you can make out. So these dark spots, if you go on higher power, you will see that these dark spots have a very, something like this, like they are not dots like this, they are irregular like this. They are not simple, dots like this. These are lobes of neutrophils. So this thing is a feature of cryptitis. Here you see a destroyed, almost destroyed crypt by neutrophils, and the lumen of the crypt has something known as neutrophilic abscess. And then of course the lamina is very busy. Now if I told you something about Nancy, Robarts and Joubau's scoring, there are European guidelines, the ESPHAGN, and the American guidelines, the NASPHAGN. There are Royal College protocols for diagnosing IBDs. So the European guideline states, then there's something known as the ECHO guidelines. Please go ahead and read. This is the European Council guidelines for diagnosing IBD. And they, mention points, and then they tell you the level of evidence available for each point. Level of evidence means how true that might be, depending on the research which is published by meta-analysis and systematic reviews, what level of evidence each point has in the current scenario. So neutrophilic abscess means this thing, and in the crypt abscess, that is neutrophilic abscess in the crypt lumen and cryptitis, have very, very good level of evidence, like they have a 90 to 95% corroboration with ulcerative colitis or IBDs. Okay, but presence of neutrophils in lamina propria, as per the European guidelines or the RC path, even if you are not getting this, or neutrophilic cryptitis, but you get neutrophils in the lamina, you label it as IBD. This is what the Royal College or the European people say. But there is only like 80-83% concordance on this. The 15 to 20% of the pathologists say, maybe the Americans say, no, there has to be some destruction to call it IBD. You just cannot call it IBD because neutrophils are present in the lamina. Because there are other acute inflammatory inflammation where neutrophils might come in the lamina. So that is one point of contention. So what will you do? For you as exam going, or when you are sitting in the diagnostics, if you see this, you can label it as IBD directly. If you are not seeing this, then for all practical purposes in the exam, you will not call it IBD. This is classical for IBD. For those who are sitting on the diagnostic setup, if you get other features like features of chronicity, and you are getting neutrophils in the lamina but not this, you can label it as a possibility of IBD in view of features of chronicity and inflammation in the lamina. Follow-up clinical correlation, endoscopic correlation advised. Always remember, celiac disease and IBDs are not diagnosed only on histopathology. There is serology involved and endoscopy involved in celiac, and then there's endoscopy involved in and radiology involved in IBDs. So do not label anything, so do not think that the whole burden lies on you, those who are just looking at it at diagnostic purposes. But you will need to favor something for the clinician for them to further work up. Calprotectin is a new fecal marker, neutrophilic fecal marker, which is coming up as not procalcitonin or calprotectin. It is coming up as an inflammatory marker of a neutrophils if they are present in your bowel, and then they release this and this comes out in the fecal matter, and this is estimated. So that favors an IBD because you have neutrophilic abscess and crypt destruction, so neutrophilic material goes out in the stool also. Okay, but those are recent advances. For all practical purposes, cryptitis, crypt abscess means it is an IBD. If you do not have it, then do not label it as IBD. So if there is repeated mucosal damage, there's ulceration, there's loss of epithelium. This is how the crypts become, and then some crypts start regenerating. It's a repeat. That is why you got that architectural distortion. But if you get a biopsy in this phase where there has where no chronicity has set in, the destruction had happened, and now the epithelium was regenerating, you will get this kind of atypia. Can you see how high NC ratio and blue these cells are, and then here totally thinned out, then there's inflammation. So please don't label it as dysplasia. I will show you later on what a dam dysplasia associated with ulcerative or IBD looks like. But when you get variable size crypts, some totally thinned wall, lot of inflammation surrounding, in this image it's not there, you might get some fibrosis, and then you get this kind of bizarre atypia, not a pencillate atypia but a bizarre looking atypia, then most probably it is a regenerative atypia, which is normal. Okay, it is not something bad. So okay, so today I will just start with what I've shown you. See the basic features of any IBD. I've shown you. Most Crohn's I will show you later, but UC I've shown you. Cryptitis, cryptapsis, basal plasmacytosis. Then you might get regenerative features, atypia, etc. That is separate. So if I get a biopsy and I'm not, and it's a colonic biopsy where the crypts do not show that proper test tube rack pattern, there is a lot of inflammation, there's cryptid, then I would think of IBD. Before, and I told you for IBDs you need clinical, radiological and endoscopic information before making that diagnosis, because a lot of things might show cryptitis and cryptapsis also. So we all know UC is like, if you can see, this is not a very good image, the entire mucosa from here to here is red, and this is normal but this is not normal. So UC has like a continuous lesion while Crohn's is skip, which I'll show you in the future. Over here you also see these erythematous, these are folds, normal folds, but you see these erythematous lesions all over this mucosa. You see these erythematous lesions move all over this, and when if you take a biopsy, this is how it looks. See, this is distortion. The two crypts, there's loss of crypt, यहाँ कोई क्रिप्ट है ही नहीं, एंड देन दो क्रिप्ट्स के बीच में डिस्टेंस है, एक छोटा है, एक ब्रांच करते हुए बड़ा है, एंड देयर इज एडेमाइन इन्फ्लेमेशन. So these are features of a UC. Next part, since I want to keep this short, so this is already 17 minutes. Next part, I will show you Crohn's. Then I'll show you some IBD infections versus IBD, radiological changes, then DAM, the atypias, and then of course I will tell you the take-home message for this. So this was the first part. We'll continue with the second after some time, then third after some time. And any questions you have, you can post in the comments. Okay. So thank you for today, and thank you for listening to me and your patient hearing, and I'll see you soon with the second part of this.